Hi, friends. It's me, donor concierge, Jordan O'Hara Smith. Thank you so much for joining us. I am here coming to you live from the Gordy. That's right. I am at the Gordy for opening night of Catechism. It's Las Vegas. It's going to be a wild and crazy night. We've got a great discussion with a really special guest this evening. But I wanted to take a moment to welcome all of you and thank you for being part of our lovely impresario group. And of course, those of you that are opening night subscribers, thank you as well for being opening night subscribers. Make sure that you keep an eye out because we'll be announcing our next season soon, and we'd love to have you back as an opening night subscriber. But tonight is all about Sister and Catechism, and of course, a fun discussion about the show that everyone loves so much. It's why we keep bringing her back. But for tonight, we have Artistic Director Ken Mclaughlin joining me for this discussion. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I'll bring him in momentarily. But I did want to mention a few things. If you have any questions as we're going through the discussion, please drop them in the YouTube chat. Not sure which side of your screen it's on, up, down, left, right, wherever it is. Please just drop your question, and I'll make sure to get that to Ken as the discussion is happening. Also wanted to mention that we do have some exciting stuff coming up. We have rescheduled a couple of lawn screenings. So if you're interested in Stage a Studio sessions and you didn't get a chance to join us on the Brown Foundation lawn, make sure you check your email and the website and sign up. But now let's talk about opening night, and let's just go ahead and bring in the one, the only, Ken Mclaughlin. Ken, are you there?
I just popped in just like that. We're just a few feet away from one another, but separated by a garage door, so I can be maskless. You, on the other hand, are on a place that's it's a little trafficked right now as people are getting ready for the show. So you've got your beautiful mask on, but here we are together, Jordan, opening night.
I know, it's so exciting, and I love that I'm right here. I'm actually outside of the theater where Sister will be happening. And I'm actually in front of the check-in station for all of the COVID safety stuff. Yeah. So it's very real. It's very real tonight.
It's so, it's such a different world for those of you out there. We have now on our staff, on the staff for every show, what is called a COVID compliance officer. And we have a set of approved protocols from the Actors Union that we follow throughout, whether or not we're doing a union or non-union show. They're also developed through Stages, our own internal practices. And so the COVID compliance officer actually is a trained, I think a certification of some sort that they go through and make sure that we are following a set of protocols that keeps everyone very safe. So we've been doing it all year long, and it's happening right behind Jordan with the team coming in and getting ready to set up for Sister and being COVID compliant. So yeah, we are in the modern world. Here we are in the pandemic world.
Yeah. And so it's been really cool just being here and seeing everyone get ready for the show, because of course there is a show happening, even though it's virtual. It's been really cool to see all of the production team members coming through and of course getting their checks. But yeah, it's opening night.
It is opening night, and I so want to be able to say, and this will probably be our last virtual opening night. I don't want to do that. Who knows what can happen in the world. We are hopeful that we can continue, that we will be together so soon before the next opening or at the next opening, or who knows. But we do know that this virtual world has opened up so many possibilities for us and changed the way we do things, and just this fun kind of stuff that we've discovered, like Jordan with your natural TV persona. It's been just joyful for us, and finding all sorts of ways. This show, especially, what we're going to talk about, how we've, again, the production team has figured out another way to bend and play with the tools that we have to reach you, and to reach you in a way that is as interactive as we can make it. Yeah. So yeah, all sorts of new frontiers with a show we've been doing since 2009. So 12 years we've been doing a version of Catechism, and tonight we launch a new chapter of that story.
That's incredible. I will say that I know everyone out there that's watching this that is part of this opening night group, they're so excited. This is probably the highest turnout we've had for a virtual opening night. And I think it's because this show is so incredible.
Yeah.
And of course, Denise Fennell, I mean, good golly, what can she not do? I mean,
I've
what a
never,
star.
I have never met a comedian like her in my life. I've never met somebody who, and in a show like this, a show that is so contingent upon the experience you create in the room, and her ability to navigate, like she literally builds a community every night, and then she pokes and prods and plays and tickles and does all of that every single night in an original way, you know.
Yeah.
And so when we were looking at the season and thinking about, well, what are we gonna do with Catechism? Like, what should we do with Catechism? Let's do this thing. And you know, we were on the phone with Denise and really considering, like, well, maybe it's just not a show that can exist at this time in this virtual reality. And we kept saying on our side, the staff and the production team, that, but it's one of the most joyful things we do. It creates such a joyful experience for our audience, and we need joy. We need to continue to find and grab and exploit our joy right now as this thing drags on. And so so that was why we said, well, then we're gonna have to innovate. We're gonna have to figure out a way, because the key to making this work is interaction, is Denise actually being able to engage. So we've kind of figured that out. I don't want to get ahead of that story though, Jordan. Should we talk about the show? Should we talk what should we talk? Should we talk about the start of the show, like where the show comes from?
Let's start at the very beginning.
It's a very good place to start.
Yes. Yeah, let's do that, because, you know, we all know the show so well. And of course, our patrons do, especially this group that's watching right now. And so I think it would be great to just let's go back to the beginning and let's talk about this show, where it came from, how the heck you found it. I mean, you've got all kinds of info on it, Ken. So I'd love to hear it.
All right. Well, with me, let's get into the Wayback Machine, Jordan. With me. Come on, hands up. We're going to 1993. 1993, ladies and gentlemen. 1993 in Chicago, Illinois. 1993, Chicago, Illinois. A stand-up comedian by the name of Mary Pat Donovan was doing her stand-up act. She did it around the city, and in different theaters, but also in different stand-up clubs. And she noticed that during the act, she had a set of jokes about her experience as a young Catholic student, a young girl in Catholic school, in the 50s and the 60s. And that evolved into, she started playing a character of Sister in the act. And so Sister kind of rises in this moment, and it's a small set of Mary Pat's larger, and Mary Pat is just one of the funniest human beings on the planet. I mean, she's just a remarkable comedian, and was, quite a sensation in Chicago.
That makes sense.
And suddenly Sister is born, right? Sister shows up in this comic act, and then that snowballs. And so, along with some other individuals, she puts together a show. The original version was kind of a one-act show at Live Bait Theater in Chicago. So kind of edgy small theater. Boom, snowball. It is now a two-act. That the original version is two acts, and it is still running to this day.
Wow.
In Chicago. So 28 years that play has been running.
That's incredible.
At circa probably the later 90s, maybe the 2000s, it branches out. There become sequels. There become franchises. There becomes an effort to recruit other comedians to take on the role of Sister and begin to develop. And so that just kind of continues to mushroom. When I first I found the show in 2008, first saw it and scheduled it for 2009. Wow. And I can't remember how I found it, but I do remember how I saw it. So we had never, Stages had never kind of ventured into this presenting model. And it was early in my tenure as producing artistic director. I'd only been doing it for about a year and a half, 2 years. Okay. And I really wanted to test the waters with what happens if we bring something in. Will that take the burden off production? Can we find something that connects for our audience? And so I think somebody had pointed this out to me and said, hey, have you ever seen the Catechism series that ever played in Houston? And I said, no. So we looked it up. It was playing in Pittsburgh. And so George Lancaster and I got on a plane and we flew to Pittsburgh. And because I'm like, well, come with me, help me out. Cause I don't want to do this by myself. So George's like, sure, I'll go to Pittsburgh. So George and I fly to Pittsburgh, and we took an afternoon flight. We get to our hotel room at 15 or whatever. And our hotel room's downtown, and the theater that's playing it is downtown, and within walking distance. And we're like, hey, let's go down to the bar and grab a bite at around 6 before the show, and then we'll head over for the show, thinking the show was at 7.
Yeah.
So we get down to the bar, and George
Were you late?
George is on his phone, and he's like, oh my God, it's a 6 o'clock curtain. It's a 6 o'clock curtain. And it was like 2 minutes to 6. So we go tearing out, not knowing the show. So we didn't know the show at all. We didn't know what happens. We only knew that we didn't want to be late for this thing that we were, testing out. So we rush. George and I were late.
Yeah.
So the actress in that particular production, who still does it in Pittsburgh, I believe, is Kim. I can't remember Kim's last name, but Kim was the actress, and she's one of the nuns who's very East Coast, very hard nun. And boy, she made George and I stand on that stage. She made us explain why we were late. She made us pay $1. My entry into the play was absolute sister humiliation. That was how I met the show. And
I mean, yeah, that's a pretty good introduction to it.
and George and I we had seats together, but we were late, so they gave our seats away because it was sold out. So we had to sit in folding chairs, kind of away from each other. So we actually ended up having these very different experiences of it. And she picked on us a little bit, but not a lot as the evening went on. But yeah, we knew it was really fun. But I remember very clearly Jordan saying to the company that ran it, I said, it's great, and it'll be amazing, but we're in the South, and that kind of that East Coast bite, that I'm like, that's not going to work in the South. I said, we have to have find somebody who really kind of understands the way we function as a community, because part of it is really creating community. And so then from that point in 2009, I went nun shopping, and I flew around the country. I went to Denver, I went to LA, I was in Tampa, I was in St. Petersburg. I was all over looking for a nun who would fit for us.
How do you just Google nun actress in need of a nun?
Well, it was the company would say, well, hey, they would send me an email and say, hey, we're doing it in Denver, and here's this actress. And I'd go and I'd be like, oh, she's wonderful for these things, but still not right. It just, I think I was really hypersensitive, actually, Jordan, about just getting it right for our audiences, because it's a tricky thing, right? Like, one, you're dealing with something that's really special to people, spirituality and their faith and a religion and a practice. And there's that careful part of it, but there's also the way in which an actor can take that, celebrate it, and wink at it simultaneously. That's a real tricky thing, and make that happen for you. So along the way, I mean, I did see actors. I saw actors make people cry. I saw actors who and then they felt bad, and it became an awkward thing. I saw actors who really just dug into their sister role and with the ruler slamming it, and people saying, literally, I was in a house once in Denver where a man got up and walked out. And she goes, "Where are you going, honey?" He said, he goes, "It's too much. It's too much. It's too much." And she's like, "I'm sorry. But it was literally a nun with a ruler triggered for him. So I was like, I don't, it has to be right, and so, I shopped until we got it right.
So how many, if you had to put a number on it, how many nuns would you say that you went and saw all around the country?
Oh gosh. Probably 7, 5 to 7.
That's a lot.
Actually, yes. Well, and the Denise story is actually really, it's how we get to Denise is actually really wonderful, because we did have a nun with us at the very first year we did it, an actress by the name of Amanda Hebert, who was out of Baton Rouge. And Amanda is just just amazing comedian and actress, and perfect, launched the show perfectly for us. But Amanda was kind of like moving away from doing it. She'd done it for such a long period of time. So she came in to kind of launch it for us and open the door. And then that very first year, we switched to the Christmas show, and Amanda couldn't do the whole run. So they brought in this other actress, this young actress who was spectacular. And And then they brought in this one other actor for one day. So they brought in 2 different actors to replace Amanda. And then we went forward and time passed. And at the time, there were only 2 catechisms and Christmas. So we'd done them all. And I kind of laid off.
Yeah.
And about 3 years later, they added a 4th show, which was the Till Death Do Us Part, the couples one.
Oh, I've never seen that one.
Oh, it's so good. And
I'm sure.
And so the company emailed me and they said, hey, we have a new show. And some of the people are out on the road performing it. In fact, somebody who performed with you at stages, who in that Christmas replacement, is doing it in this somewhere nowhere town in North Carolina. So off I go to North Carolina to return to the Nun Market and to see this brand new show. And it's the first act. It is a giant proscenium theater, and out comes this woman onto the stage, and within seconds, 300 people from rural North Carolina were literally on the floor, and I was like sitting there like this, like, who is this? And I'll never ever forget it. I will never forget that one of the things that Sister does in that show is she asks couples how long they've been together and da 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 da. And there was a couple in that audience who had been together, I think it was 79 years. And the entire audience and the emotional and the way Denise carried that and held it and celebrated it and also turned it into comedy it was crazy.
Yeah.
So intermission comes where it was a gymatorium of some sort, or some kind of public hall. And intermission comes, and I had to meet this woman. Like, I had to meet her. And the company had told her that I was going to be in the audience. So I assumed, but here's the funny part of the story, all of it, is I thought that she was the other woman who replaced. So I had a picture of who she was. And I thought she knew me because I knew that other woman.
Nope.
And so I thought that's who it was. So I burst, Denise tells it exactly like this. He bursts into my dressing room. I didn't burst. I opened the door. It was a classroom of this community center. She was sitting on a little child's chair. And I said, I'm Ken from Houston. You remember me, Denise? And she literally was like,
no.
With her glasses. And she's like, how did you get back here? And I was like, I'm sorry. I don't mean to disturb you during your mission. I just want to let you know, and I'm going. And she's literally looking at me and like, you're coming to Houston. She tells the story. Denise tells the story similar to me, but her perspective on it of like this insane human being with all this excitement, in the middle of North Carolina, telling her she's coming to Houston, and that's how we got Denise.
And she's in a tiny chair, right?
she was in a child's chair.
Yes,
but that's how we got her, and she has been with us and deep in this relationship ever since. And we've done she's brought every new version of the play to us. So the Halloween version, was relatively new, and the summer version was new, and Vegas, like all those other, she initiated all of them here with us.
Well, and
Mary Pat still writes them, but
what other because I know Denise did Sheer Madness. Has she done any other shows with stages other than?
She did the Search for Signs of Intelligent Life in the Universe, which is the one-person show written by Jane Wagner for Lily Tomlin. And it was after we did, I think might have been relatively early on. Maybe it was after we did the couples one, which was a huge hit. Or maybe, no, it was after we did the Vegas one the first time. And I was sitting with her and I said, Denise, you're just the greatest comedian I've ever known. I've never seen anything like it except Lily Tomlin on stage. And I suddenly had a moment. I'm like, oh, let's do that. And I really just wanted to work with her and see where that would go. And she was like, Ken, I've never done anything like this. But we did it. And I'm really, really proud of it. And she was spectacular. And if she was here, but she's being sister, but she has a great story how last year, a year and a half ago, she was at a party in LA and Lily Tomlin was there. And so she went up to Lily Tomlin, like in awe, and back, and told her. And Lily was like, Lily sat her down and said, tell me all about it. Did you do this part? How'd you do this part? And she said Lily just was so excited that she had done it and congratulated her. And it's very sweet to hear Denise tell that story.
You can't see it, but my jaw dropped. As you can see, I fell out of my chair. Love Lily Tomlin. Of course, love Denise. She's incredible. So I'm just like imagining those two like in a room together. And
I know. Can you? Well, it's just, I'd give anything. I think Denise has pictures. She will tell her to post them. But it's
Oh,
yeah.
yes. How cool. That's such a neat, like, it's always nice to hear the background story of like how you find people that our audiences are so familiar with, because stories like this exist. And, it involves you bursting into a dressing room, Ken.
That's how she tells it. I swear I opened the door slowly, but whatever. I no, she had a different perspective. She was in a little chair, so everything was out of scale.
The
I
tiniest
do
chair.
know. I am confessing, sister, that I was excited. I was excited because of you. So perhaps there was a little burst, but so
Very cool.
it's been really an amazing experience.
Good. Well, thank you for that lovely background on the show, because I didn't even know that. I love these conversations with you because I learned so much about you and just the history of stages. And it's more than just what we know about this fabulous organization. But I did want to talk about this show specifically. And I want to hear how the heck, everyone came up with the idea to do this virtually, and how that happened. Like, how do you take such an interactive show, the most interactive show that we do, and you make it virtual? And what went into that?
Such a great question, Jordan. So here's been my struggle with the whole virtual platform, right? It's not necessarily the idea that we can't be together. Like we had to come to terms with that. We had to come to terms with that relatively early last year.
Yeah.
Once we were shut down, we all as a community, as a human community, had to just come to terms like in order to keep one another safe and keep ourselves safe, these are choices that we have to make right now. And so once we kind of wrestled with that and agreed with that, then as theater makers, it becomes, for me, the question is, well, how do I still build community? How do I still tell stories? And I'm not a filmmaker. I'm not interested in being a filmmaker. But the idea, and what is most important about theater is this visceral communal connection, right? So I just reframed the question for the team, and I reframed the question to say, how can we take this thing? This is our option right now. This technology, and we have a lot of people who are very proficient in it, but how can we take it and make it visceral? Like, how can we create experiences that would be, impactful, emotionally impactful, engaging in a way that's not just putting on, something that we can get on Netflix or whatnot, because, we're live theater. You can't get us on Netflix. And so we started to experiment. We kind of looked at the year as an opportunity to just build capacity in our artistic capacity, to learn stuff and play with the audience a little bit. And what I'm so considered one of the greatest blessings of this year is that the audience kind of went with us, and we all admit we're zoomed out, right? We're screened out. We've been through everything in Netflix, right? And we so want to get back in theaters together. I certainly know that's what people are saying, what I want. But meantime, we're still here, and we're still navigating these platforms. So we played around with making a film. We made a Zoom film. We added a Zoom, and we played around with those things. And we kept saying, this creates a gut reaction this way. This feels like something you can get on Netflix. So we kept evaluating where we were. Studio Sessions, I think, was really a breakthrough for so many reasons. And Honky Tonk Laundry too. Both of Mitchell's projects were just so they were beautifully executed, but they really created a theatrical sense in a filmed world, right? And even though Honky Tonk had live streamed, so we were kind of gathering the things we liked all together. And we're saying, well, how does this work for Denise? Because Denise has to talk to that audience. Denise has to engage with the audience. So I think it might have been Joel Burkholder, our production manager. I'm not exactly sure who on the team, but certainly Joel, who's a genius, was like, well, why don't we set this up in Zoom somehow? And Denise and Mary Pat actually had started doing some Zoom sister classes. So they went together as nun. It was sister, and I think it was sister and sister. But they were doing some Zoom classes out of LA. And those were really successful. But they were relatively limited in terms of what they could do. And I was like, I bet we could do more than that. And I bet we could get something else to happen. So we started working with Denise, and we said, what if we built your set and we filmed you live and we just live streamed it? And we're like, well, no, they can't talk to her. So then, well, what if it was Zoom? Well, how many people can you put in a Zoom room? What if it was 3 Zoom rooms? What if those 3 Zoom rooms were projected back to Denise on giant screens, which is something we have in the court? Like, it just started rolling. And it's the kind of thing where your creative imagination goes, and you let a team of artists and creators just go. Like say, and you give them the space to create. So the technicians who worked on this, Joel Burkholder especially, I keep bringing his name back, but the whole team, just I mean, they've just outdone themselves with the creativity about what could happen. And so what the audience will experience tonight is so, Denise is live. She's here in this building. Everything she's going to do is going to be live to you. Now you're going to find out there's some quirks in the system, because sometimes it's a Zoom call going through a Zoom call. So there's all sorts of layers of technology happening, but it's in real time, and she's seeing you, and she's seeing in your houses, and so what Denise realizes, it's not just the things I have so much more to talk about with them now. So it's been joyful watching her explore that all week as we've been test streaming, figuring out how to do it. But it's pretty cool to look at. Jordan. Yeah. I wonder if we should show people.
I mean, only if you want to. Oh,
well, everybody.
Thank you for the mask.
Wow, everybody. I'm not gonna give too much away. And here goes my ring light. Boop, boop. But we're gonna go for a walk, and I'm gonna show you some stuff on the stage. Jordan, maybe Phil while I'm walking or whatnot. While I'm walking across the Gordy for you.
What? Hello.
Hello, there I come. I'm coming toward Jordan even as we speak. I'm headed toward the Smith Theater. I'm going to take y'all onto the stage of the Smith so you can see actually the setup. So this is a backstage real life thing. Here I am behind Jordan. Yay. All right. And now we're going in here. So I'm walking in.
Everyone, you are getting a backstage look at what's going on right now. How cool is this? You're the only people who have seen this.
And my terrible camera view. All right, so there is the set. And I'm going to come over here. So this is the set that is the background. But then now, imagine I'm Denise and I turn around. What I see are a video screen, which will have you. That right now we're looking at Zoom Room 2. That'll have a whole bunch of folks in it. And then I see Zoom Room 1. That'll have a whole bunch of folks in it. That was Zoom Room 3, sorry. And Zoom Room 1. So on all three sides, Denise has the feed coming to her on giant screens. So what you look like to her.
Incredible.
You are giant tiles to her that she's talking to. So that's how she's talking. I'll just give everything away backstage. You see her cameras? Right. There's the cameras that are shooting here on this side.
Oh, I love it.
A camera, where is it? Camera shooting her over here. Okay, she has a big screen timer here that tells her where she is in the show. Really cool stuff. And I'm going to take you really quickly, Jordan, into the booth.
Okay.
Look who's here. Wait, where is he?
It's Todd Mclaughlin. Hey, Todd.
Stage managing the show.
Hooray.
Okay, I'm headed into the booth.
Okay.
Show you a little bit of this technical setup.
Okay, great.
Here. Can we turn the light on by any chance here, Tony?
For any of you out there who are wondering where the booth is basically like ground control. Like if we were NASA, this is where everything is controlled. Okay.
It exactly is. And here's Todd's stage management desk. There's Javier, our lighting designer, and getting ready to run the show. And then sound is in the back. Note that they have plexi screens separating them. They're all wearing their masks for COVID protocols. But that's on this floor. And then I'm not going to go upstairs, but upstairs, there are 4 Zoom operators. So each of your Zoom rooms is being operated by an individual. I'm okay. I didn't fall. By an individual, and then there is a 4th individual, Anthony, who's controlling how the Zooms switch back and forth. So there is a team of 9 people supporting what's coming to you from Denise. It's super cool. It's super duper cool. So I'm gonna head back into the room so I can take my mask off.
You head back into your room, and because I do have a couple more questions, especially now that I've seen the set.
Yes.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome, and always a pleasure to see Mr. Todd Molesky. I don't think people understand, like, that's one of the great things about stages, and y'all allow us to go out and do these crazy artistic things and be involved in the artistic side of things. Todd is our director of operations, and he stage manages all of the Catechism shows, which is incredible. So,
And my ring light. Oh my gosh, I've been caught. Um, and Todd and Denise are dear friends. And I'll say this a little more backstage stuff, Jordan. Thank you for sharing that. You know, Denise is the kind of actor, and she's talked about this. She's talked about this in her, in some of her talkbacks. Sometimes there are actors who get absolutely terrified before they enter the stage, like literally,
just like shaking,
blinding stage fright.
Yeah.
And Denise is one of those actors who, because she has to be so vulnerable to make this thing work, she's the kind of actor who experiences that, like really crippling stage fright just before she enters the stage. And no one would ever know that because she's the most confident actor you've ever seen on stage. But that's a reality sometimes of actors, especially when they're about to make themselves that vulnerable. So Todd and she have built such a friendship and a bond over the years, and that Denise feels very, very safe. And that's critical for a show where the actor is that exposed. You know, is gonna carefully improvise, teasing people, digging into stuff to find comedy in people's lives. It's a really tricky tightrope walk. And you know, it's one of those things, a lot of times people dismiss shows like this as a bauble. And that frustrates me sometimes, because I think this level of talent and skill that's in play, whether or not you connect to the material, whether or not whatnot, you have to honor the just remarkable artistry it takes to do what Denise does. And so, I'm glad you brought up, and I'm glad you brought it because Todd's a really important part of her ability to do the show.
Yeah. Speaking of Denise and Todd and just the whole show and everything, this is a question I have actually always wanted to ask about this show, because you know me, I'm a big old nerd. I love to know about the background and everything. But the rehearsal process for this show is unlike any show. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, that's one whole thing, but how did it change even more doing this virtually? How the heck did you do it? How?
Oh gosh, Jordan. So the traditional rehearsal process for Catechism is usually just Denise arrives the day of the first preview or the day before. And then she and I go through everything and we go through the show. I have prepped the show and we talk about what will land in Houston. Maybe we move this here. Like we talk about, and Denise knows her audience, and she knows us really well. She knows the city really well. So we look for the local references. Like the summer one was really fun when she learned all about baseball shit and the Jose Altuve calculator and like little stuff. And that one, for instance, we made up a whole baseball game. We just made that up playing around. Yeah. So sometimes we'll just do different things, but this one, but generally Denise bakes it in and brings it, and then we just tweak it. But this one, because it was so completely new, we've been working together and with Mary Pat. Mary Pat's been very involved in just adjusting it, tightening it. It's only one act, finding the things that needed to go that still made it make sense. What's the fun stuff to keep? What plays on camera? What doesn't? So we started. What's today? Thursday. So we started a week ago.
Wow.
Just getting the technology right. Just for Denise to learn where the cameras were and how to use them, and then for us on our side to figure out, push the feed this way, move this zoom this way, and so the first 2 or 3 days it was just the production staff on Zoom, which was Denise was having a pretty good time with that. And Denise, in her summer outfit, and then and we have these incredible students from San Jack who are running all the Zoom, right? So we have an intern program running the Zoom, and so it's thrilling. And so we're doing that, and I kept saying, you guys, she's gonna come as sister, just hang in there, and so then when Denise finally came in the habit, literally that was joyful watching the 4 kids be like, oh
no.
What is this?
Yeah.
And then we had had invited people on Tuesday night. Last night we had our first preview, so she's really had many days to start to get used to it, to figure out quirks in the system, we've had time to iron everything out, and we're still playing. I think that's one of the signature things for stages. No matter what we're doing, I don't think we ever think of ourselves as having finished something and here's this perfect polished product. I think we are the kind of artists who can it's at a level that we're ready to open it up and share, but we're also discovering and digging and playing. So I think that gives it an energy that feels different than other kind of work you might see.
Yeah. I mean, that's what makes it so great, right? It's the difference between theater and film. You get to see something different every time and experience it, and typically experience it with a room full of people. People will experience this in a room with other people, but it's virtual.
That's correct. That is correct.
Well, cool. I did have one final question, and this is just like a little thing because I know you need to go because it's almost showtime. We're getting there.
Okay.
But seeing the set, it made me think the set is always very similar for all of the Catechism shows. So is there anything specific that changes with every show? Like, is it what's on the chalkboard? Is there something on the desk?
Sometimes it's funny you should ask this question, Jordan, because we were all laughing that there's the two walls. There's sisters. I think it's an essay contest or something, and it's all staff names over the years, and we've added to it. So it's really fun to look at. Every year we put it up. It's the stage's staff for all 12 years. Like different people are on that list. So Jordan, make sure you get your essay on there. And then what's happened here in Houston, what's joyful is that so many of the fans of the show have given Denise stuff, have given Denise gifts, and they now are all over the set. So and those are touchstones for her. So she brings all that with her. Like we set the setup, and then she brings all the gifts that you've given her over the years, folks, and she puts them all on. I don't know. She brought the Altuve jersey, but this time I'm just like, oh wait, where was that? It might be there somewhere. But little beautiful little gifts and photos and things that people have given her over the years are on the set. So yeah, it's
incredible.
It's a special community thing. One last story, Jordan. The other night, our first preview, Denise is very close to nuns and sisters in every town she goes to, but she's especially close to sisters here, and she's close to the Sisters of the Incarnate Word. And there's a sister there, Sister Virginia, that Denise is especially close to. Sister Virginia's in her 90s, and Denise has spent the year just so worried about COVID and would it get in, what could happen with a woman in her 90s. And the other night, Sister Virginia not only figured out how to put Zoom on her computer, but Sister Virginia was with us for the first talk because she had just found out. She randomly had called Denise that day, or Denise had called her and she said, I heard you're coming to Houston. And Denise said, I'm in Houston. And Sister said, I'm going to be there the first time. So Sister was there, and watching Denise and Sister Virginia, I'm going to get emotional. Watching them just talk to each other and the true love and care these women have for each other, and a religious sister and an actor who plays there were layers of theater as a community builder and a beautiful one playing out in real time as we were watching it. It was something really special. So yeah, Catechism really it's not to be dismissed. It's doing an amazing amount of community building and joy and bringing joy and art, and it's special. Yeah. So I'm really glad we spent time even talking about it, Jordan. You're awesome. Thank you for spending that time.
Of course. I love hearing stuff like that. I love theater. I love art. I love the way it affects people and brings people together. And this is incredible. And I love this conversation and that we're even doing this. But Ken, it is 7:10. As you know, I keep us on track. Yeah, we are on schedule. And I want to make sure that you're able to get back to the booth because you're going to be in the booth tonight.
I am. I will be watching the show. I'm not going to be in your Zoom room. I am going to be watching it from the backstage side so that I can just be present with you all in a different space.
Well, thank you so much for this. I'm going to release you officially for the evening, but as always, it's been an absolute pleasure and an honor. And thank you for chatting with all of us.
Heart you, Jordan.
Heart you. Now go get in the booth. David, take him out of here. Hello, everyone. It's just us now. Well, it's 7-Eleven. I want to make sure all of you have time to get ready and prepare for this opening night performance of Late Night Catechism Las Vegas. Sister Rolls the Dice. Make sure you check your emails because I have emailed all of you the links for your Zoom room with passwords. If for some reason you have not received that, check your junk folder. Things like to go to the junk folder or email me, jsmith@stageshouston.com. But thank you so much for spending time with us tonight. And yeah, get ready for opening night. I hope you enjoy it. And of course, thank you so much for supporting Stages. But other than that, have a great opening night, everyone. Goodbye. Ta-ta. Bye-bye.